Hi, guys. Welcome to the second episode of the Unnamed Podcast. I'm here with my friends Finn Fox Mills and Tony Eade. Um, and today we're going to talk about breaking news that the Premier League clubs are going to resume training in small groups, that is. And we're going to talk about what this means for the league going forward and what this means for football going forward. And obviously there was, other news, unfortunate news today. Allegedly, Chelsea Football Club player Callum Hudson-Odoi was accused of rape, and he has been arrested and sentenced to a prison sentence. So we will get into that. And then Tony, obviously, as our Serie A expert, we would like to ask him a few questions on what he thinks will happen with the league going forward, the Serie A, that is, what that will mean for Juventus going forward, and we'll talk contracts, we'll talk players, and talk breaking news.
So we'll start off with the good news of the Premier League hopefully restarting within the next month. What does that mean though? Because we have 9 games to go, and they're gonna have to fit that before August somehow. So are they gonna follow the same sort of format as the Bundesliga, where they do 2 to 3 matches a week and they have 5 substitutions? I'm pretty sure that's the FIFA rule right now. But what do you think the Premier League? What sort of format do you see them following?
I think it's going to be. Sorry, you can go, Tony, if you want to speak.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's should be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, they have to find a way to get this done. Hopefully before August. That would make the most sense. And whether that means 2 or 3 games a week, we'll see. Probably like the Bundesliga, we'll see. Obviously, behind closed doors. Which again will be very interesting. In the Bundesliga, we don't really get to hear the players, understanding them speaking their, German, other languages. I think, in the Prem, it's going to be very interesting. Potentially, to hear them speaking, kind of make out what's being said. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. We have to see, what they decide. It's a very good sign that, the teams are gonna get back to training. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully everything gets done before August and get wrapped up for this season.
Yeah, I think the intrigue of the league title, it only really exists right now between the Bundesliga teams and the Serie A teams, at least for the top 5 divisions, that is. So with the Premier League, I think the urgency of bringing it back obviously has to do way more with relegation and European qualification. And I think what they might just do, we said they're probably going to end up scrapping the Champions League. That's what we talked about last episode. And I think that's probably, the best option at this point, because traveling between European countries is just not a reality. But
I think it's just going to get scrapped for this season.
Yeah, I can see it definitely getting scrapped for the simple fact that there's no relegation, there's no qualification things at place, there's no potential lawsuits. There's just teams going for the bidding for the trophy. So teams like Atletico feel hard done by, Man City as well, because they won't be able to qualify. Atalanta as well. Any team that went far will feel hard done by if that was the case. But I just don't see them having the ability to finish off leagues individually and then also have, European competition where they have to travel at the same time. That's not going to happen anytime soon. I think we just kind of have to accept that. They'll probably just end up scrapping it. And then for the Premier League, what they might end up doing, which the NBA has talked about doing too, not to go away from football for a bit, but the NBA is thinking about doing a bubble and kind of having all the games held in one arena so that there's no traveling, there's no traveling in and out of airports and stuff. So the Premier League might do that with Wembley, which would be actually kind of cool if all the games took place in London for the rest of the season. I don't know how that's going to work, to be honest, because London's kind of been a hotbed for the virus. But I think they're going to figure it out while these players go back to training, just to see what kind of regulations work out as far as training goes, and push on from there. Basically, I think is the plan.
Yeah, but I think the biggest problem that we've seen over the past few weeks is that the Premier League clubs they're struggling to agree on just generally what's going to happen next. There's a proposed plan to play games on neutral surfaces which would include, I think Brighton was one of those teams. I think Southampton was one of those teams. But they couldn't file a majority vote for that. So obviously that plan was scrapped. Obviously the Bundesliga, because the virus kind of is more sustained, and it's not as hot as it is, as you said, in London. It's easier for them to just have the home games and away games as it is. But obviously, because in England, obviously London is such a hot spot, and there's so many teams in the Premier League, and obviously in the lower tiers that play in London. That'll be tricky to go just to follow along the schedule. But then again, that's the problem that, we spoke about last night to an extent, is that if clubs will not agree, then it's hard for the English Federation to kind of make any sort of decision and kind of mark their authority, on what we're going to have going forward. But, England, obviously Wembley Stadium you can't get any more neutral than that. If there's any way to kind of get the games played at Wembley, or even another maybe neutral surface, and I think that'll it'll be a smooth transition. But again,
I think that would give Tottenham a bit of an advantage though, because we're used to playing at Wembley with an empty stadium.
Yeah,
I don't know how much of an advantage it'll give you, but
so what's going on with the Serie A, Tony? Is there any talk about it returning anytime soon? I know coronavirus, one of the hardest hit countries, Italy and Spain, of course, as well. But what's the deal with them potentially coming back in the near future?
So in very recent days, there's been a lot of talk, and what we heard in the past few days is that the league was supposedly going to resume on June 13th. So that was some exciting news. Obviously teams have started training already. I'm sure we've all seen on social media the training pics of Juve, for example. But some unfortunate news today. The FIGC came up. So the FIGC is the organizational head of the Serie A. They decided that there's going to be no return of action of sports in Italy until June 14th. So that was kind of a blow, and that's the latest when it comes to news in Italy. Like you said, it's one of the hardest hit countries. I believe it has been getting better, so that at least there's some hope there. And the fact that they were even able to get back to training, I think that's a very positive sign. So we can only hope mid-June is when we can kind of get back to things in Italy. But so we can just wait and kind of see what's next.
Yeah, I think the fact that a lot of these countries, Spain, Italy, even France, who unfortunately did end their league, the fact they've been easing a lot of restrictions lately, I think the biggest concern with the easing of the restrictions would to be bring back football at this point, because these footballers, not only even without a crowd, we're seeing these massive issues. We talked about last episode too with the Paris Saint-Germain game, where after they won the game, there was still 10,000 whatever fans outside the stadium in a large group. If we ease the regulations, the football fans are still going to congregate in whatever way they can. So I think that's the concern with bringing back the sport at this point. I think with Italy right now, if you look at their table, I don't think they can get away with voiding a season, for the simple fact that Lazio's chasing a first league title and God knows how long. But, with the Premier League, it's going to be so hard to come back, because I saw that Nigel Pearson, the Watford manager, was super against coming back because he was worried about his own health, his own safety. And you got to remember, yes, these are young, healthy athletes, but some of the older managers, they're up there in age. And I think that they're definitely in that target age for risk of like a severe infection. So you can kind of definitely understand where they're coming from in that respect. But you see the Bundesliga coaches and coaching staff with the masks on, and I wonder, would the Premier League, would they do the same sort of thing with even the fact that there's so many more cameras in the Premier League too, like the cameraman on the side. Like they're still going to have all these issues with people coming in and out of the stadium, the staff as well, touching all these surfaces. So there's a lot, to unpack when it comes to just bringing it back within the next month. But, we all hope that the Premier League just starts again. Like, I just want to see football. I really don't care if there's no fans, if there's no, if there's more subs. I just want to see the game.
Right. And, I will say this, is that no matter how long it takes, as long as the right decision will be made, and the safest decision will be made, I think we will all be happy. We don't want the FA and the Premier League to rush your decision just to please the fans. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure from the fans, from the clubs. We all want to see the return of the Premier League. But, it's not as easy as that. We as fans and as human beings have to understand that it would be wrong for the Premier League and the Football Federation of England to make a decision to say, all right, we're going to, start whatever day, June 1st, June 15th. It would be wrong because, there's so much uncertainty and the number of cases in the UK is still on the incline. So with that being said, it's going to be very difficult for them to kind of, look at their calendars and set a date. So, every day there could be, new developments, and that's why we have to, pay close attention to the numbers and everything. But as long as the correct decision is made, I don't think anyone, fans, players, managers, owners, anyone associated with the sport can have any complaints.
So to the point of the UK cases still in the incline, can we speak a bit? We don't have to speak just about Callum Hudson-Odoi's situation, particularly, but there has been a few instances of players in England specifically breaking quarantine laws and doing silly, I would say stupid stuff. But what happened? I don't know the full story. I didn't want to read it because it kind of frankly disgusted me. But what exactly happened there? Do you know the synopsis of what went on?
Well, okay, so Callum Hudson-Odoi invited this model, unnamed model. The name has not been released to the media. That he met on a dating app, some dating app. And apparently this was late hours after midnight, in his house in Battersea. And he invited her over, and then basically what happened next that we know is that she called 911. She basically said that she had been raped, and then she was immediately taken to the hospital. I don't know exactly what. All we know is that she was taken in the hospital, and then early Monday morning UK time, Callum Hudson-Odoi was taken into police custody and has been arrested. And nothing more, no further updates have been made. Chelsea Football Club had declined to comment on the matter, which kind of makes sense because you don't want to comment when there's so much uncertainty. And, as we've seen with other footballers, there have been times where footballers have been accused of, such an offense, and it has turned out to be false or over exaggerated. So we have to be really careful before we kind of, jump to conclusions. Obviously, if it is true, then, Callum Hudson-Odoi, I'm sorry, mate, but, that's the end of your career. And, I can't fathom him doing something like that. Forget any footballer, but for a young and upcoming footballer who's making his names for all the right reasons, obviously was out for injury. He's back now, he's fit, he's happy. And for him to do something like that, it's quite sad. And, frankly, for his sake, for his family's sake, for Chelsea Football Club, and obviously for the women involved, I hope that this is just a hoax, and it's not as true as what we read today for it to be. But if it is, then that's the end of his time at Chelsea, and frankly, I think that's him done as a.
That should be it'd be the end of his life as he knows it too. To be honest, we all remember the Adam Johnson situation that unfolded. I want to say 5 years ago now. And at first, everyone thought it was all just speculation and that it was the media, but it turned out it was incredibly true. So, to your point, there are times where stories can get fabricated, but for something this extreme to be happening at a time like this, I just think there's got to be at least some truth to it. You know what I mean? The fact that he was arrested so promptly after it happened too. I mean, we won't get too into it because it's a big technical thing. We weren't there. We don't know the story, but the truth of the matter is he broke quarantine. So either way, we saw the same thing happen with Kyle Walker doing it twice. So either way, I know these players. What I said to my friend this morning is all they know is football. They didn't go to college. They weren't really taught to do anything else with their lives other than you're so good at football, you're going to get to a point where you're going to make millions of dollars on it. So they're at this point now with the quarantine and not even be able to train. This is not a point in their lives they've ever been in as professionals. They're at a point where I think they're going a little mad. And I think we're starting to see players act out of character, do things that are just not professional, because if you're Kyle Walker, if you're Callum Hudson-Odoi, if you're, one of these professionals, you have little kids looking up to you. You have a whole world of people that follows as you. You have an influence on both social media, on the pitch, everywhere. You're a celebrity just as much as any other celebrity. Even more so during the World Cup where there's 4 billion people watching it. So to be setting that example of, breaking laws and, committing horrible, heinous offenses. I think the whole kind of organization of Premier League needs to come up and say, we had this Pride Month, we had this, what was it? We had we always have the mental health awareness month too. There should be some other like ACT UP campaign where it's like, you need to know your role as a professional and you need to know your place in society as a big influence on human beings' lives. And I think it is, to your point, it's really sad. And, it's sad that this sort of thing has to unfold when we're all excited to get back to football. But I just hope that, players and, lovers of the game alike don't get roped in to the same sort of, ideas. Like if you're in a fraternity and this sort of thing happens, you're going to get labeled with that. So I hope athletes, like the NFL players, get a bad rep because of a couple bad eggs. I hope that doesn't happen with the Premier League. I remember when the racial abuse happened earlier this year, a lot of people were giving out to the Chelsea fans, to the Spurs fans, this and that. Racism is going to exist within pockets of the world. You can't be roping in entire fan groups. And that would be the saddest thing to see if players all start, getting roped in with, bad offenses that he's doing. I'm sure not a single Chelsea player with, good morals would ever defend him when they hear like the whole story. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll wait to see what happens with that. We all hope for the sake of the game that it doesn't cause too much drama, and for the sake of the victim as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we can move on to the results from the Bundesliga fixtures from the weekend. Obviously, you want to talk about the football itself and less about just the world surrounding it. But obviously we had the return of football. We had the return of European giants Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, etc. Just to start with the 9:30 game on Saturday, which was Borussia Dortmund versus Schalke, which obviously was a rout. And watching that game live, I was impressed by Dortmund. Overall, I think Schalke were horrific. I think that they had nothing to offer, and frankly, you could tell that they hadn't played a game for 2 months. But same old story for Dortmund. Haaland scoring goals. You have production from Thorgan Hazard. You have production from Julian Brandt. The defense with Hakimi and Hummels, as solid as it was. Akanji came in to fill in the role for the injured Schmelzer, and he did a great job. Roman Berkey was not challenged with, Schalke didn't have anything going forward. It was a comfortable game for Dortmund, but I've been saying this for a long time. For me, Dortmund have to perform when they play, against the Bayern Munichs, the RB Leipzigs, the Borussia Mönchengladbachs. Like, there's talent on that team. For the past couple of years, when they go up against the big teams, like, they went out to Paris Saint-Germain. They were humiliated by Bayern earlier on the season. Last couple of years, they've been humiliated. They got to show us and the whole world, now that everyone's watching them, that, they're here to compete, and that Bayern's not going to just run away with it as they have done for the past 6 or 7 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time in a while that Dortmund's really competing for the title. And the last time they won the title was under Jurgen Klopp. And, he's about to win his first title in a while. But, I look at Dortmund, I see a lot of parallels with my club, Spurs. Like, for the longest time, like, all right, not the same parallels in the sense that they can win trophies. But when it comes to being able to perform consistently, they always have a good base of young players that go through the ranks and then get snatched up by a bigger club. And now that works to an extent. But when it comes to those sort of games where you have to perform against the big clubs and you have to actually, get over that line, Dortmund really haven't gotten over that line. And it's pretty clear that, yes, they have an amazing base of young players. Jadon Sancho and Marco Reus didn't even play. But they need to mix the experience more. They have Mats Hummels. Royce as well is one of those names, very experienced guy, Mario Götze. But they need to be able to have this healthy balance because their core of their team just seems to be based around the young players. So they need to have this healthy balance, like a lot of these teams need to find, where they have a lot of experience mixed with, inexperience but talent. And, you could feed off of both. And it's evident in that they were replaying that Bayern game when it was 4-0 earlier this year. Like, it was just so obvious that there was no leader in that Dortmund team saying, this is a massive game. This is the Dirk Kaiser of the this is a massive game. And it was clear in the PSG game too. There was no crowd, no yellow wall behind them. And it was obvious that they needed a leader to step up. They didn't have a crowd backing them. They needed some kind of, I don't know, they need some core to their team. And I want to see them beat Bayern so bad. I want that title race to be like the best thing to look forward to because it's frankly the only football we have right now. So I don't know. When is that game? That's next Tuesday or Wednesday, correct?
Yeah, I think it's next Tuesday.
So it's a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. And Tony, I wanted to ask you about this because I thought it was quite surprising that Jadon Sancho was left out of the starting 11, considering he's been an automatic starting 11 player. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation about his future being linked to various clubs, including Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Barcelona. Obviously, these are big clubs, and as a youngster, as an English youngster, it's probably a dream of his to move on to the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas of the world. For me, it was a very interesting decision to leave Jadon Sancho on the bench, considering he had no history of any injuries or illnesses or whatever. It just seemed that he just was Hazard and Brandt were preferred to him. Obviously, Giovanni Reina was supposed to be starting that game, but unfortunately, he picked up an injury.
Hometown hero.
Yeah.
He's from Bedford.
We'll get into that.
Bedford,
Finn knows a lot about him. But so what do you make of that, Tony? What do you think? Do you think the manager is Lucien Favre? Is he trying to send a message to the other teams that are interested in Sancho? Is this a message to Sancho saying that if your mind's not in it, we have other options? What do you make of the decision to leave him on the bench?
That's a very good point. Like I feel like this transfer speculation, I feel like that may definitely have an influence in him not starting. Although I want to say, the most logical reason is the simple fact that, these players haven't played in such a long time. We have to question fitness levels, and it may very much be down to the simple fact that players like, as you say, Thorgan Hazard or Julian Brandt were just in better shape. And I think, I don't want to say he had a bad game when he came on, but he didn't necessarily look up to speed, when Sancho came on. So I think that was definitely the main influence. I do think he will move on. As you say, to a club like Liverpool, Chelsea, or United. I think those are the three main clubs that are heavily interested in him. Very well may have been a message sent to Sancho, and I think it would have been a good message to say, look, you're still at Dortmund. There's all this speculation going around, but you're going to still have to fight for your place here at Borussia Dortmund. So if that was the case, and obviously they went on to win 4-0 without him. So if that was the case, I would definitely say a message well sent. But I think it was mostly down to fitness levels.
Yeah, no, we saw the same kind of thing when Eriksen was about to leave Spurs, and you see the same kind of thing when players just clearly aren't. If you don't play for the badge in club football, it's pretty evident when you fall out of favor with the manager. And the same sort of thing does happen at Chelsea a lot. It didn't really happen too much in Hazard's last season because he's at that level where he has to perform. He's expected to perform no matter what badge he's playing for. But I don't think we would see a drop in form from Sancho because he's playing for his price tag. He's playing for a move. To your point, it's probably more about fitness in that sense. But it'd be interesting to see how we have all these games coming up in such short time. I mean, Dortmund are playing. They're playing Wolfsburg this weekend, so that's another big game for them. In sixth place, I think Wolfsburg are in. So that's another big game. Maybe we see Sancho come back just to get his rust off. Get some rust off of whatever playing he needs because they're gonna need a fully fit team, like a full stack team for Bayern game. Because Bayern looked on it the other day. Now they weren't scoring a lot of goals, but Alphonso Davies going down the left, they're such an overpowered team at times. They have so much attacking talent. They have such a strong defensive unit. And I'm so surprised they haven't done anything really in the Champions League in the last 5-6 years. But with the team they have right now, I think they kind of pushed out the Robin, Ribéry, that core of the team. And now they have a great balance of young players and then Thomas Muller, Lewandowski. They have the balance that Dortmund's been looking for. So that game's going to be really interesting because Erling Haaland matching up against Boateng, it's gonna be a brilliant game. It's gonna be an amazing game. And Hummels against his old club, the incumbent coming back. It's gonna be the best game of the season left of any league, I think, because of how close.
Sure, no, I agree. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be fascinating. But to your point, it's interesting to see that despite all the talent and just all the goals that they seem to rack up, they don't really perform in the Champions League. But obviously this year, and you and I both have firsthand experience to it. Unfortunately, we both met
Spanked.
the Nabry effect.
Yes.
Nabry came to North London and South London and absolutely.
Lewandowski too. You can't sleep on him. Like he scored 2 against us. Scored at least 2 in that 3-0 game, right? At least
Yep,
2.
he scored 2 and assisted
Yeah.
1. Yeah, and when you have a player like Alfonso Davies, who's a winger by trade, when I followed him very closely when he was playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and he was tearing MLS apart. So it was a matter of time before he made his name on the world stage. And obviously, Bayern loves to sign these youngsters that not a lot of people ever hear of, but they make their name. And Alfonso Davies, is up there with some of the best left backs in the world, including the likes of Jordi Alba and Andrew Robertson. And when he came to Stamford Bridge, he had he had Hudson Odoi in his back pocket. He had Abraham in his back pocket. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing phases him, and that's what I love about him. He's fearless. He's coming from the MLS. There's a lot of expectations on him. And the shirt is not being proven to be too heavy for him. He's performing. I saw a bit of rust in him against Union Berlin, but that's you'd expect that, especially from a teenager who hasn't been playing football
He's
for
been
2
making more
months.
TikToks than he has been making.
Oh man, his
So,
tick. Yeah, he definitely. The one thing I will say is that there are a lot of teenagers that sometimes the fame can get to their head, and we've seen this a lot with teenagers. Martin Odegaard has not produced. Yeah. So as long as he continues to do his talking on the field, and just keep producing results and helping Bayern win another Bundesliga, and then their ultimate goal is obviously to win the Champions League. I think they'll cement him as as one of the best players in the world. But we shall see. Yeah, I can't wait for the Dortmund Bayern game. It's gonna be a thriller.
yeah, when I think about Bayern,
Just
I think about – oh, yeah, you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just on the point, while we're on Bayern Munich, I think it's fair to say that they've cemented themselves as favorites for the Champions League. I think before even all the league shut down, I think they were the team on form, and I think now with the Bundesliga being back, they can get their players back into match fitness. PSG, for example, their league is canceled. When the Champions League, if the Champions League comes back, obviously the players won't be match fit. So I think that gives Bayern Munich a very, very big advantage should the Champions League come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
No. I think it's exactly the point I was about to make, because I say right now, and they have the best, most well-rounded team in world football. They have such an amazing midfield. They literally, if you think about Joshua Kimmich. They have a bunch of players that are so versatile. Pavard can play center back, right back, left back. Alfonso Davies can play the wing, or he can play the fullback position. That they don't just have this amazing stacked team. They have such a versatile team. You look at Liverpool, amazing team, but every single player in the team plays their position, and it's the same starting lineup every game. When they lose 1 or 2 players to injury or suspension, you could tell the shakeup has an obvious effect on their game. Jordan Henderson, wasn't in the Atletico game. How big of a miss was he in the end to contributing to them losing, the chance to hold and retain the Champions League title, which only Real Madrid has been able to do. So, I mean, when I look at Bayern Munich, I think their biggest test, let's say the Champions League does come back, their biggest test has to be Atletico. Because you look at Atletico, a lot of those players, they're starting to hit that age where they're playing with a point to prove. And the fact that they beat the reigning champions, and the fact that they did it with such style, I was watching their game, and they had such a unique game plan. Like, every time a player would get the ball in Liverpool, they know Liverpool's game is to push it out wide to get it to the attacking players, play quick, not just counterattacking football, just like high press football. And you could tell that Atletico's game plan was to just swarm the player every time they got the ball. It was like a game of ASO. Like, they were literally just swarming the players. And like, if you want to know more about it, just go and watch a bit of the highlights. Like, every time they got the ball, they would have 6 guys sitting back behind the ball, and then literally all 11 players back behind the ball every time Liverpool would press forward. So that, yes, that defensive mind, would it work against Bayern? maybe. Who knows? Like, who knows?
Yeah, and to that point, I think Atletico Madrid have really resurrected themselves after a couple poor seasons, and there have been a lot of questions asked of Simeone, and obviously Diego Godin left the club, Antoine Griezmann, their big superstar, left the club, and they're still there, and they still play that same 4-4-2, and it's proved to be successful once again, and I think they're going to be a big test for any team going forward. But Tony, I wanted to ask you this because for me, when Juventus signed Cristiano Ronaldo, that was for one reason only, and to win the Champions League. And last year, they scraped past Atletico all because of Ronaldo. That was Ronaldo's show, And after that, everyone was like, all right, it's Juve's year. But then they got bounced by a youth team, more or less. They got bounced by Ajax, and then questions were asked. And this year it hasn't really gone to plan. New manager, new style. Um, you know, I was very pessimistic about the Maurizio Sarri signing, having had firsthand experience, at Chelsea. I didn't think he was the man to take you guys forward, but he got the job. And it's been a struggle. This is the first time in 6 or 7 years that there's been a title race in Italy. It's a 3-horse race, even though Inter are kind of falling back. But at the same time, this is a team that's trying to win the Champions League. They're not trying to win the Scudetto. Obviously, it would be great because it's a trophy and it's a major trophy. But this team signed Cristiano Ronaldo, and they're paying him the wages he is on to win the Champions League. And this year, before the whole cutoff, you guys lost to Olympique Lyon 1-0. Does this team have what it takes to win the Champions League? And as put all your feelings aside for the club, as a neutral, just looking at this team, can they compete with the Bayerns, with the Barcelonas, with the Paris Saint-Germains, with the Liverpools? Do they have, obviously Ronaldo's the X factor, but is the supporting cast good enough to take Juve to that extra step?
A very good question. Has a lot of parts to it, and I'll try to tackle it all the way. I think when you look at this Juve squad, the gaping hole is obviously the midfield. And I think for every Champions League winning team, you need a strong midfield, and we just don't have that. I think you can name 10 or 15 squads, objectively, that have a better midfield than Juve. However, that being said, any team with Cristiano Ronaldo and with the experience that Juve has, they have a chance to win the Champions League. If you ask me, will we win the Champions League? I will probably tell you no at this current juncture. Like you said, we lost 1-0 to Lyon. That is just unacceptable in the round of 16. I do think, should we come back, I do think we will overturn it, but we should never have been in this position to begin with. Going back to the whole Sarri appointments and obviously the end of Allegri, I think it was definitely the right time to part with Allegri. His game style kind of reached the end at Juve. We needed a manager to kind of take the qualities of the team and look into attacking solutions to score more goals, create better chances. I think Sarri was appointed mainly because of his time at Napoli, where we saw this Sarrismo philosophy that obviously we all hear about. Hasn't clicked very well so far at Juve. However, we have seen flashes. I will say that I just don't think with the players available, particularly in the midfield, that we can't see this kind of identity that we hope to see from Sarri. And I'm excited recently because I'm seeing some of the midfield names linked with us, like Sandro Tonali, like Alborz. We've been needing a midfield overhaul for so many years. We signed Cristiano Ronaldo. So we bolstered the attack. We bolstered the defense. But ever since the days of Marquisio, of Pirlo, of Vidal and Pogba, we just had that lacking, presence in midfield. We've been going for free deals like Rabiot and just kind of, cutting corners in the midfield. And I think that's cost us very dearly in recent years in the Champions League. To answer your question once again, any team with Ronaldo and with the experience we have, has the ability to win the Champions League, even against the likes of Bayern Munich, Barcelona, PSG. However, whether we win or not, nothing changes. We have to bolster the midfield, and we have to, fill in the holes of the squad, which are clearly very vacant and have been vacant for several years now.
Yeah, it's a very valid point, and for the simple fact that you look at Bayern Munich's midfield, they would have a field day against Juve. Cristiano Ronaldo could score a hat trick in the game, but are they going to outscore a Bayern team that put 7 past Spurs, that put 3 past Chelsea at the bridge, that put 4 past Dortmund? No, probably not. And Juve could get lucky with the draw and come up against a team like Atalanta, but even Atalanta, you look at their team, the amount of momentum they have right now. Atalanta is the Ajax of last season. So, would Juve fare well against another young team like against Lyon, where they're not even, they're not performing to the standard they should be? Who knows? Who knows if the Champions League will even come back? But, I think we're hitting a mark of the 40-minute mark right around now. I really enjoyed this one, boys. I think we should definitely hop on again tomorrow. We should get another voice in here. Hopefully another, someone with insight of maybe La Liga would be interesting too, because we didn't really talk about how La Liga could be coming back very soon, and the implications that'll have on the game. Obviously, we're all happy to just see some football back in some respect, and stay posted, stay tuned. We'll be talking about it as it goes on. We're all in quarantine, so we got nothing else to do. So yeah, thanks for being on, guys. You guys want to send us off?
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure as always. I'm so happy that our first episode was such a success, and we'd like to have more voices and just more opinions on the show. And I'm happy that we can actually talk more about football and less about just the whole pandemic aspect to it. But it's been a pleasure as always, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, I guess I'll just close off by saying I watched yesterday's episode, and from then I was just very excited. I love what's being done here. Being able to talk about football while it's going on. It's great that at least one league is back, and we can only hope that more leagues will be coming back soon. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hopping on again. If you made it to this point, thank you very much. I doubt you did, but because we did talk a lot about the pandemic stuff at the beginning. But if you got to the point we started talking about the football side of it, thank you very much. Again, thanks to Alborz. Thanks to Tony for being on the show. I hope to see you again very soon on the show. You're welcome anytime. You brought some pretty great insight to the show. So let us know in the comments if you have anything you want to mention, any new stuff, any new topics you guys want us to talk about, any questions, we could bring it up in the show. Of course, subscribe to the channel, and also like and share if you enjoyed. But signing off. Thank you, guys.